Hi, friends. Hello, the world. Welcome back to this episode of Tools for Transitioning Humanitarians. I'm your host, Salor Manava, greeting you from Berlin. And I'm so excited to do this episode because I have a very useful topic to discuss. And the topic is not feeling useful. Right. This is a topic that I have discussed a lot with humanitarians, and I'm surprised that I haven't really done an episode on this as to how to navigate and what to do about it. And I wanted to dedicate a special episode on just not feeling useful in terms of how this is showing up and what are the solutions humanitarians seem to find that does not feel like a solution. Excuse me. And what will be the actual solution that would settle you long term, right? That will give you and have this feeling of, okay, I know what I'm going to do about this. So let's start with examples first to give you ideas of how that is showing up the way that humanitarians tell me. And of course, you can also look at in your own area whether it is in the work or maybe in other areas where you feel like I'm not really feeling useful, I'm not really contributing, or I'm not really adding value. Right? I don't really know whether what I'm doing makes sense or makes a difference. If you are having these type of thoughts, then which areas of your life that's showing up? So in my humanitarians that come to me, they were saying that the way that this shows up is one of the examples is where a client of mine feels like she is in a very high position in the organization. She does not really feel like there is much to do for her. There is not even like a TOR already, and she just feels like she needs to invent her own work. And she feels like for her to do this work where she wants to do it at a higher level, but when she feels like she needs to invent a job to do, then she feels like, well, does that even really matter? And does that even make sense? Should I really be doing this, right? That would be one way of where the feeling not useful comes up. Another way is where you don't really feel like you're adding value, is even though there are like teams and people are already working and there are lots of things going on, except that you feel like your job is all about reporting, maybe, or all about researching or analyzing, or you just keep like feeling like you keep producing reports or all of these things, right? And then it feels like it doesn't really go anywhere, right? It doesn't really go anywhere in terms of it being implemented. It doesn't really go in terms of whether this was useful, anyone has been reading it. This is like very typical way that humanitarians feel um, they're not feeling useful, basically, right? And then there are jobs where you continuously feel like you need to create your relevance, you need to prove your worth, or you need to show why you are being paid this amount of money. Like an example that I was coaching on yesterday, where my client was saying that she feels like her boss is so much in this. I need to prove that I have the value to add, and therefore she just keeps um, uh, like panicking, or she keeps creating a lot of turmoil where it doesn't need to be a turmoil, right? And then my client was saying that I just feel like, okay, she just wants to show that she's doing something, or it feels like it. And then as a supervisee, she is on the receiving end of all the proving and all the ways that she keeps creating emergency where there's no emergency. And she keeps creating jobs or the work that may not even be necessary, or spending a lot of time on nitty-gritty commas and dots in the letter, even though that's not where 2 hours of the highly paid staff should be spent on, right? And that doesn't make the difference. And then she was saying that when her supervisor has this feeling of, I need to be important, I need to be useful, and this is how I'm going to show this, and then it just feels so exhausting for everyone involved, even though she believes that the supervisor probably is also, but it's just so much of the negative impact on everyone else, right? So you can see that when we start feeling or wanting to be useful, even and we believe that the reason why we want to be, like, we want to show that we are useful, we want to show that what we're doing makes sense and all this, what we end up doing oftentimes is we end up either justifying or proving a lot. We tend to keep thinking about how to create my relevance, right? How to create our added value, how to add more work, or how to maybe sometimes I have even seen people that they have started working on things that were never even essential to work on, and then when that person like does not get everyone involved on working on this, then that person starts creating problems, and then everyone is like pissed. So this is like very often the occurrence of humanitarians feeling when they don't feel like they have either enough job, or they have the job that they're not really satisfied, or feel like it doesn't even need to be done, or is it even necessary, right? Or they feel like they need to show how necessary everything is. And then what we end up often doing is we end up, as I said, creating a lot of noise, creating a lot of justification, proving a lot of pressure for other people around us. And also, we just keep feeling like we need to keep showing that this role is important. We need to keep showing that this, what I'm doing is important, right? Now, when we do these type of behaviors, what we then tend to try to solve for it, right? When we feel like not useful, when we feel our role is not useful, right? And even though we should obviously always distinguish between us feeling not useful as a human versus what we are doing not being useful, right? But we often tend to interpret both way in one way, which is I'm not useful. And that then makes us feel so unnecessary, unnatural. And of course, from nature, we all want to be useful. We want to be making impact and contributing, right? That's very human nature. So therefore, when we feel like we're not useful, we then start getting into solutions like, okay, then I need to prove more of how useful I am. I need to show more of how useful I am. I need to be more um like solutions that I need to create more job for myself, or I need to like keep showing. And then when I start asking my clients, why do you need to keep proving and showing and justifying that what you're doing or what you are adding value is actually an added value or not, and they feel like, excuse me, well, I have to do that because I don't really have any other option, right? I can't really go anywhere else. I don't have other job opportunities. The budget cuts in organizations are heavy, so therefore I need to just keep um, showing and proving that I am useful, even though maybe deep down I don't even believe that is the case. Or even if I do, I feel like I will lose my job and I'm afraid of that. Right. So because of these feelings, or because of this fear of not having alternatives, not having jobs, so wanting to keep and hold on to that job makes us then find solutions that are actually harmful to us, and to everyone around us, right? So if we believe, for instance, that I have to prove how much I'm adding value, and I keep doing that and pressuring everyone and like pressuring myself and stressing out, then not only I'm stressed out, I'm getting everyone else around me stressed out, especially if I'm in the managerial role, right? And then what the fear does is fear makes us feel so scared, so like on the edge, on the vigilance of keep like doing things or wanting to show and all of this. And what then we end up doing is we just feel like, is this how we really want to continue doing it? Do I really have to continue proving that I'm adding value? And then we don't like our own um, scarce and fearful mode, a worried mode and worried state. But at the same time, we feel like we don't have any other option, right? Does that sound familiar? So when you are doing this, the solution that you believe oftentimes or your brain offers in that moment where you are feeling worried and fearful, the solutions that your brain tend to offer is something of the heightened things of the thing that you're doing. So the example would be that if you're already stressing out about how you may not get another job, so you better prove that you are worthy or your role should stay and whatever else, then your brain in the fearful mode, in the worried state, will be telling you, well, we should prove even more. We should prove even more. We shouldn't sleep 24/7, or we shouldn't take a break. We shouldn't be going and spending with our loved ones. We should just continue showing and showing and showing and justifying and convincing and all of this. And when we are in that mode, we are not actually resting. We're not really zooming out and reflecting on whether what we're doing even makes sense, right? We're not really thinking about the impact that we actually want to make. We're not thinking about the people that we're serving. We're not thinking about the supervisees or other colleagues around us that we might be contaging our stress reaction to others, right? We're not doing all of those things. So that's why this is not a solution, right? Doing more of proving, more of justification is never a solution. And if we find ourselves in that stage, we want to address that fear first and say, okay, what can we do about that fear and worried state so that we don't find solutions from that fear, from that worried state, right? And once we realize that, what if no matter whether we justify or not, we keep proving or not, if there is money, our job will be kept probably, and if there isn't money, maybe some jobs will be cut. We understand that, right? But what is important here is that if we don't trust ourselves that even if we don't have this job, even if we will, let's say, not be extended, we will not get the job or whatever it is, if we don't trust that we're going to be able to find another job, then we will be continuously victim of our own fear. And that fear continues us then to prove a lot and show a lot and justify a lot. And then we start feeling like we're just keep explaining and trying to like keep showing how our role is important, even though what we actually want to do is actually doing the impact, actually serving the people that we want to and worrying about how to help them, right? That's really what we want as humanitarians. So therefore, the fear takes away all of that joy and passion of how we actually want to contribute. We stop being the like humans who genuinely love and want to work for the cause. We start being the person who needs to hold on to something, who needs to save something, needs to rescue the career or whatever. And then we become so occupied about that. So if we don't want that, so first thing we need to identify is why are we trying to save or trying to keep proving and how long we want to do that. And if we didn't do that, then what's the alternative? And the alternative, the way that I have coached so many humanitarians is trusting that we are able to find another job if this doesn't work out. Because the more we keep proving and showing in all of this, the more we get so tired and maybe even burnout, and the more we then start thinking whether this is worth it. But most importantly, we are risking losing job that way. And instead of so worrying about the job, even though I understand it's very important and we want to keep our jobs, right? But if we do the actual solution, which is worrying about how to really contribute to the people that we want to, how to really change, make the changes that would be so sustainable and beneficial for the people that we're serving, for the organization, for our team members, the more we do that, the more satisfaction we get ourselves, and the more other people get satisfaction, and the more likely that someone will offer us a job or we will find another job as well, because then we will be more focused on how we actually want to contribute to the work, how we want to make the difference in where we are, instead of keep thinking about how we want to, at any cost, keep the job. And one should not exclude the other, meaning that just because we are so wanting to contribute and so wanting to serve the people, we shouldn't care about the job, or we shouldn't justify, if necessary, why that role is important. But that's not the main thing that we're going to be focusing on every day, right? This is something that it comes and it's on the side, but the main focus that we have is how to make sure that we actually want to contribute to the cause, how we want to actually make the changes, how we want to serve the people we want. And the more of that work that we do, the more opportunities we get. And I promise, this is my experience, and I can see so many humanitarians who have this experience as well. So that would be the first viable solution, right? The second solution that I always want you to think about is, what if you are the person who don't need to justify, or who don't need to like feel useful because your work is already useful, and if you genuinely feel like, no, my job is not useful, then where you could make that useful work, right? Because if you believe like, no matter how much you're trying, no matter how much you um are wanting to do this, and if you feel like this is not useful anyway, then maybe there is another way to work in that organization without leaving the organization if you don't want to, but still going for making the useful work, right? Because if we don't do that, eventually we will be so disappointed with ourselves for having tried to do something that we don't even believe that it should be done, but we keep doing it for the sake of doing it, and then we stop respecting ourselves, we stop um, believing in what we're doing, and then this feeling of what is the word I'm looking for, this apathy comes up, or a feeling of numbness, and then we start not caring about it because we just keep doing for the sake of doing, and that's not how we want to function in the world, right? So therefore our job then is to figure out, okay, where do I want to do a useful work within this setting, and how that could look like, and how do I make my work useful? Because if we keep waiting for someone else to bring us some jobs or some tasks so that we really feel useful, maybe it doesn't always work for many of us, especially as humanitarians, because we want to be professional, we want to bring solutions to the table, we don't want to be just waiting around for someone else to bring the job to us, right? So therefore, if we want to be doing our job a useful way, then I would always think about, okay, within the environment where I am now, what would be the most useful thing I could do that I would feel good about it? What would be the most thing that I would do within the reporting, or within the protection, within the logistics, delivery, whatever it is? What would be the most useful thing that I would do that would make me feel very satisfied. And some of the ways that I have always approached this is I always loved working on systemic changes within where I am, right? Because I always thought that if I make the systemic changes, then it will affect everyone around in the hopefully positive way. And therefore, everything will be working like a clock, if we say it, right? And therefore, I would always think about, okay, what are the ways that I could make systemic changes that would make me feel good? Or what are the ways that I could make strategic changes that would make me feel good? And I would genuinely work on those useful tasks instead of just keep feeling like I need to somehow justify or prove that what I'm doing makes sense. Because I wouldn't even want to spend my precious time and energy on thinking about how to make my job useful. Even though I understand that we want to be useful in general as professionals, we want to do a good job, and that's very natural. And I just would leave it at that instead of like making it a focus of how I can make it useful so that I keep my job. I wouldn't spend any time on that because the more I would spend on it, the more I would keep telling myself how I'm lying to myself and I wouldn't like myself. And I don't want to get into that lane, and therefore I will just always I will always want to dedicate my time to doing something very impactful, that very useful. And I believe that I'm doing a useful job because the outcomes are clear. And if the outcomes are not clear, then how do I get the outcomes that I want? Right? Instead of um, like keep acting from the fear of how do I keep my job. Do you see the difference? One is where we're genuinely wanting to contribute, genuinely wanting to find solutions to the people that we want to serve or to the environment where we are, right? One is genuinely wanting to find that solution, and the other is let me keep showing and showing to others so that I can keep my job. And that feels artificial, that feels not right, that doesn't feel good in our bodies. And overall, it just is not sustainable. And that's why if we don't want to go that lane of finding solutions that way, then we need to address the fear of why we keep fearing that we're going to lose our job and there is no job out there and all of this. Because no matter what the circumstances are, how we feel about the circumstances are up to us. And we have the option of feeling trusting and confident about getting a job anywhere else or within that organization, no matter what the circumstances are. And if we believe that, then what would we be focusing on going forward in our contributions, in our uh like effort to make things useful? So, my dears, if you enjoyed it and you would like to be coached on this, absolutely come to my group coaching. I would love to help you coach on this, any aspects of it, and also getting to feeling like you never need to have a job where you need to justify or explain how useful it is, but rather always do the job that you know in your core that is useful. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you very soon.